I knew something was coming, but I didn't expect 65 missed calls and her cousin showing up at my door 2 days later. My name's Ryan Brooks. I'm 35 years old and I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I work construction, nothing fancy, but it pays the bills and keeps my hands busy. I was on site that morning, knee-deep in drywall dust, when my phone buzzed. I wiped my hands on my jeans and pulled it out, figuring it was the usual supplier headache or maybe my buddy Travis checking in. Instead, it was Jenna. One sentence, cold as ice. "You're off the house deed. Expect divorce papers soon." I just stood there, staring at it. My heart started pounding in my ears, but my brain couldn't catch up. I read it once, then again, and again. Like maybe if I stared hard enough, the words would rearrange themselves into something normal. Something that made sense. But no, that was it. That was how she told me. After 7 years of marriage, one text. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough for someone to yell, "Brooks, you good?" I shook it off, typed back one word, noted, and shoved my phone in my pocket. I left the job site without another word. Just got in my truck and drove straight to Travis's place across town. We'd been best friends since high school and he was the one guy I trusted with my personal crap. I kept a box of old documents at his house, just in case, birth certificate, tax stuff, and, most important, copies of everything from when Jenna and I bought the house. By the time I got there, my hands were shaking, but my mind was locked in. No tears. No panic. Just cold, sharp focus. Travis wasn't home, so I let myself in with the spare key, grabbed the box from his basement, and sat down at the kitchen table. I pulled out the real estate papers, flipping through until I found what I needed, proof of my 45% equity stake. Jenna might have booted me off the deed, but she couldn't touch that without my signature. I sat there for a minute, staring at my name on those papers. I thought about all the late nights we spent painting that place, the weekends we busted our asses landscaping the yard. And now she was just cutting me out. Like I was nothing. Fine. If that's how she wanted to play it, I'd play too. I picked up the phone and called Rick, the real estate agent we'd used when we bought the place. He sounded surprised to hear from me, but he didn't ask questions. I told him I wanted to cash out fast. Didn't care who bought my share, didn't care what it took, just wanted it done yesterday. Rick moved quick. Within 24 hours, he had a buyer lined up, a private investor who snapped up properties like ours in his sleep. The next day, I sat down with Rick and a lawyer, signed the papers, and boom. My share was sold. Money wired straight to my account. Done. When I walked out of that office, I finally exhaled. It felt like the first real breath I'd taken in days. I got in my truck, shut my phone off, and just drove. No destination. No plan. Just me in the road, thinking about how everything had gone to hell so fast and how Jenna had no clue what was coming next. 2 days later, I was sitting on Travis's couch watching football when the doorbell rang. I figured it was him forgetting his keys again. But when I opened the door, there she was, Jenna's cousin, Amanda, looking frazzled as hell. "We need to talk," she said, practically pushing her way inside. My phone lit up on the coffee table, 65 missed calls, all from Jenna. That's when I knew. She thought she could freeze me out, but I pulled the rug out from under her first. And the fallout was just getting started. About 6 months before that text, things between me and Jenna had already started going sideways. It wasn't sudden like a lightning strike. It was more like a slow leak you don't notice until your basement's flooded. At first, it was little stuff. Jenna got a new job at a law office downtown, working as a paralegal. She was pumped at first, new place, better pay, real shot at moving up. I was happy for her. Proud even. We celebrated that night with takeout and cheap champagne on the couch, and she kept saying how this was gonna change everything for us. Yeah, it did. Just not the way I expected. A couple weeks in, she started working late. Like, a lot. Deadlines, she said. Big cases. It made sense at first. I mean, law offices are notorious for grinding people down, right? But after a while, it felt off. She'd get home at midnight, acting all wired and distracted. No kisses, no cuddles. Just quick showers and right to bed. Then came the weekend conferences. Out of nowhere, she's telling me she's got to be out of town for training seminars, staying overnight at hotels with the team. I wanted to trust her. I really did. But my gut wasn't on board. The phone thing really set off alarm bells. Jenna, who used to leave her phone lying around the house like it was no big deal, suddenly turned into a bodyguard. That thing was glued to her hand 24/7. If she went to the bathroom, it went too. In the shower, phone sitting on the sink. And when she did check her messages, it was always with the screen tilted away from me. One night, about 3 months before everything blew up, She was in the shower and left her phone on the nightstand. I swear I wasn't snooping. I was just grabbing my charger. But the screen lit up and I saw it. Can't wait to see you again tonight, face blowing a kiss. My heart sank like a brick. I picked up the phone, hands shaking, but the message disappeared before I could catch the sender's name. I stood there for a second, just staring at it, trying to decide what to do. When Jenna came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her, I asked straight up, "What's this about?" I said, showing her the screen. She barely blinked. "Oh my God. Seriously? That's from my friend Rachel. We always joke like that. Don't be paranoid, Ryan." She said it so casually, like I was the one starting drama out of nothing. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in her voice, the way her eyes darted, told me not to. After that, things got weird fast. She started dressing up more for work. Tight skirts, new blouses, heels she never wore before. I found a Victoria's Secret bag in her closet once, stuffed with fancy lingerie I'd never seen her put on. Not even for me. I brought it up one night over dinner. Tried to keep it light, like, "Hey, you've been spoiling yourself lately, huh?" She gave me this tight smile and said, "Is it a crime to want to look nice?" God. Ryan, you've been so weird and controlling lately. That stung. I wasn't trying to be controlling. I was just trying to figure out where my wife had gone. But every time I asked questions, she'd flip it back on me. Said I was being insecure, jealous, unreasonable. So I stopped pushing. I told myself I was imagining things. I mean, we'd been together for years. You don't just throw that away over a couple red flags. Right? But deep down, I knew. I think I always knew. I just didn't want to face it yet. And then came the night of her work trip. I was driving home from Travis's place late, and I stopped by that new steakhouse on Main Street to grab some takeout. As I pulled into the lot, I spotted her through the window, Jenna, sitting at a corner table with some guy I didn't recognize. They were laughing, leaning in close, like they were in their own little world. That's when the floor dropped out from under me. I didn't storm in there that night. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wasn't ready to face it head on yet. Or maybe I just wanted to be sure. Absolutely, without a doubt sure, before I flipped my whole world upside down. So I went home, sat in the dark, and stared at the ceiling for hours. The next day, I called Travis. I didn't even need to explain much. I just said, "Man, I need a favor." He knew right away. "You want me to follow her?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I need to know." A couple nights later, Travis was parked outside Jenna's office, pretending to be on a stakeout from some crime show. He texted me around 10. "She just left with a guy. Same dude from the restaurant, I think." "I'm following." My stomach dropped. I waited, pacing the living room, every nerve on edge. 20 minutes later, another text. "Hotel on 5th. Got pictures." That was it. That was all I needed. The next night, I waited for her to get home. She breezed through the door like nothing was wrong, dropped her purse on the counter, and kicked off her shoes. "Hey," she said casually, like we were still a normal married couple. I didn't say a word at first. I just grabbed the envelope off the coffee table and tossed it down in front of her. Photos spilled out, her arm in arm with that guy, walking into the hotel like they'd done it 1,000 times before. She glanced down, barely even reacting. Then she looked up at me, her eyes cold and flat. "So what?" she said. Just like that. No panic. No guilt. No apology. I stared at her, feeling the weight of all those years we spent building a life together. The house, the vacations, the late-night talks, the inside jokes. All of it crumbling into dust. "So what?" I repeated, my voice low. "You've been cheating on me, Jenna." "What the hell do you mean? So what?" She crossed her arms, her face hard. "I'm done, Ryan. We've been over for a while. You just didn't want to see it." I felt my breath catch, but I forced myself to stay calm. "And the house? The divorce papers? You think dropping a bomb over text is how adults handle things?" That's when she dropped the real hammer. She smirked, like she was proud of herself. "Oh right, almost forgot. I had the deed changed last month. You're off it. Expect the paperwork soon." My stomach twisted. How the hell did you pull that off? She shrugged, so casual it made my skin crawl. My cousin works at a title company. She helped make it happen. I just stared at her, my mind racing, trying to process everything at once. I should have been furious. I should have yelled, broken something, thrown her out. But instead, all I felt was empty. Like someone had hollowed me out from the inside. I picked up the photos and stuffed them back into the envelope. You really think you've got it all figured out, huh? She laughed, actually laughed, and turned to walk away. It's over, Ryan. Just accept it. But as I watched her disappear down the hallway, something clicked in my brain. I wasn't crushed. I wasn't defeated. I was plotting. Because while she thought she'd just wiped me out of the picture, I knew something she didn't. Her cousin's favor had left a crack in the foundation. A loophole. And I was already figuring out exactly how to use it. After that showdown, I didn't stick around the house much. I packed a bag and crashed at Travis's place for a bit. Jenna didn't seem to care. She was too busy playing the newly single role, acting like she'd won some kind of prize. But while she was out living her best life, I was working behind the scenes. First thing I did was dig through my old files. I sat at Travis's kitchen table one night, flipping through paperwork until I found what I was looking for, the original documents from when we bought the house. I pored over every page, scanning for any shred of hope. And there it was, plain as day, my name was still on the equity side of the deal. She might have yanked me off the deed, but she couldn't erase my financial stake. That loophole was my ticket. I got Rick, the real estate agent, on the phone again. We're moving forward, I told him. I want my share sold. Yesterday. Rick was a little skeptical at first. You sure about this, Ryan? It's gonna cause a mess. I don't care, I said, my jaw tight. Just make it airtight. He set me up with a real estate lawyer, and together we hammered out every detail. It wasn't easy, but within days we had a deal in motion. A private investor, some guy who specialized in messy situations like mine, snapped up my 45% stake. He was all too happy to get a slice of the property at a discount, knowing he could flip it or force Jenna's hand down the road. When the papers were ready, I sat in Rick's office and signed everything, one page at a time. My hand shook a little when I put my name on that final line, but not out of regret. Out of pure, cold adrenaline. By the end of the week, the money hit my account. I stared at my phone, watching the numbers settle in, and felt something I hadn't felt in months, relief. I moved the cash into a separate savings account, packed the rest of my stuff from Travis's guest room, and told him, I'm good now. You sure? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Because Jenna's gonna lose her mind. Let her, I said, flipping my phone back on for the first time in days. It didn't take long. The messages started rolling in immediately. Missed calls from Jenna. Angry texts, mostly just question marks, and call me now demands. I ignored them all. But then Amanda, her cousin, the same one who helped her screw me over, started blowing up my phone too. Ryan, you need to call Jenna back ASAP. Please, you have to reverse this, it's a huge problem. She's freaking out. Her loan apps are getting denied because of your sale. I couldn't help but smile at that one. Apparently, Jenna had been trying to refinance the mortgage behind my back, banking on the house being fully in her name. But now, thanks to the sale, that plan was toast. The investors' claim threw a giant wrench into the works, and she was stuck with a property that was basically half-owned by a stranger. I stayed quiet for a couple of days, just soaking it all in. Travis and I sat on his porch one night, drinking beers, and he asked, "You think she'll back down now?" I shook my head. Nah. Jenna? She's not the type to give up that easy. And I was right. Because while she was scrambling to clean up the mess I left, she was about to find out that her own house of cards was a lot shakier than she thought. And the fallout had only just begun. It was around 11 at night when the banging started on Travis's front door. We were halfway through a movie, feet up on the coffee table, when the pounding shook the whole house. Travis muted the TV, shooting me a look. You expecting someone? I knew before I even stood up. Nope. But I've got a good guess. I opened the door, and there she was, Jenna. Her hair was a mess, face streaked with tears and mascara, breathing hard like she'd run all the way across town. She looked nothing like the cool, calculated woman who'd sent that brutal text a couple weeks ago. You ruined my life, she yelled, voice cracking. She pushed her way inside before I could even say a word, her eyes wild. Do you even realize what you've done? Travis stood up, fists clenched like he was ready to toss her out, but I held up a hand. It's fine, I muttered. Jenna spun around to face me, shaking. My mortgage got denied, Ryan. Because of that sale? You knew this would happen. I crossed my arms, keeping my voice calm. You mean because you tried to refinance a house you don't fully own? Yeah, that's how it works. Her eyes flashed. Undo it. Call your lawyer. Reverse it now. I shook my head. Not my problem anymore. She blinked like she couldn't believe I was serious. Ryan, please, she said, her voice dropping into that fake soft tone she used when she wanted something. Look, I know things got messy between us. But we can fix this. We can work through it. I've been thinking about us and I know we can rebuild. I actually laughed. Rebuild? You mean after you cheated and kicked me out of my own house? She stepped closer, putting her hand on my arm. We don't have to let it end like this. I made mistakes. You did too. Let's talk, okay? I stepped back, out of her reach. Nah. We're way past talking. And just like that, her whole act dropped. Her face twisted with rage. Fine. You want to play hardball? I'll see you in court. I'll ruin you, Ryan. You think you're safe because you pulled one sneaky move? I'll bury you in legal fees. I didn't even flinch. Talk to your lawyer, I said quietly, stepping toward the door. And don't come back here. I opened the door wide and she stood there a second longer, shaking with fury before finally stomping out into the night. Her car peeled out of the driveway so fast I thought she was gonna take out the mailbox. Travis let out a low whistle. Well, damn. That was something. I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. It's not over. Not even close. A couple days later, I got a text from Amanda. Heads up, Jenna's trying to scramble together cash to buy out the investor before things get worse. If she can't pull it off soon, she might lose the house altogether. I stared at the message, feeling a weird mix of satisfaction and something else. Not guilt exactly, but not total relief either. I thought that would be the end of it. But then, a week later, an official-looking envelope landed in my mailbox. I tore it open, expecting some kind of lawsuit. Instead, it was something else entirely. A letter from the State Bar. A notice that Jenna's law office was now under investigation for fraud. And suddenly, everything was about to blow wide open. The minute I opened that letter, my stomach dropped. I sat there at Travis's kitchen table, reading it twice, then a third time, just to be sure I wasn't misunderstanding. But nope. There it was in black and white. Jenna's law office was under investigation for fraud linked directly to the title change on our house. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed my jacket and drove straight to my lawyer's office. He skimmed through the letter, frowning, then leaned back in his chair. Well, he said, tapping the paper, this explains a lot. What do you mean? I asked, my nerves buzzing. He gave me a look. That little stunt Jenna and her cousin pulled to get your name off the deed? Yeah, that wasn't just shady. It was illegal. And now her firm is covering its ass by launching a full internal investigation. I sat back, running a hand through my hair. So, what does that mean for me? He shook his head. You're clean. Everything you did, the sale, the equity transfer, it's all by the book. If anything, you're the victim here. That word, victim, hit me weird. I'd been so focused on staying one step ahead, I hadn't really thought about how deep Jenna's betrayal went until that moment. My lawyer kept talking, explaining the process. Jenna's cousin? She's in serious trouble. The firm had to report the fraudulent title change to the state. That opens them up to huge liability. And Jenna? I asked. He sighed. She's in the blast zone, no doubt. Even if she didn't file the paperwork herself, she benefited from it, and that's enough to get dragged in deep. I let out a breath, staring at the floor. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. I mean, we'd built a life together, no matter how messy it got in the end. But the bigger part of me? It was just done. Done making excuses. Done trying to understand her twisted logic. Done carrying any of the weight. Over the next couple of weeks, things unraveled fast. I got a text from Amanda, short and panicked. Jenna got suspended from work today. The investigation's getting serious. She's freaking out. I didn't reply. A few days later, my lawyer called with an update. The house? It's in limbo now. No one's touching it until the investigation clears. Basically, it's frozen. I imagined Jenna pacing her living room, trapped in the mess she made, and I felt nothing. Just a quiet, settled kind of satisfaction. Then, out of the blue, Amanda called me. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. Ryan, she blurted the second I answered, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't think it would get this bad. I leaned against the counter, keeping my voice even. You helped her screw me over, Amanda. What did you think was gonna happen? I know, she said quickly, her voice shaking. I was just trying to help family. But now it's a nightmare. Jenna's losing everything. I stared out the window, watching rain hit the glass. Not my problem anymore. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, like she wanted to say more but knew better. And honestly, I was done talking. I hung up without another word. A few days later, Travis and I were grabbing burgers when he pulled out his phone, scrolling through some local news. He started laughing and turned the screen toward me. You are not gonna believe this. I looked down and there it was. A headline about my old house tangled in legal drama. But the real kicker? The investor who'd bought my share of the house, he was identified in the article. And guess who he was? Jenna's boyfriend's biggest rival in real estate. I shook my head, a slow grin creeping across my face. Wow, I muttered. She really screwed herself twice over. Travis raised his beer. To karma. And for the first time in a long while, I raised mine right back. About a month later, I was getting gas when my phone buzzed with a text from Travis. Dude, you hearing this? Jenna's boyfriend dumped her. I just stared at the message for a second, shaking my head with a little laugh. I shouldn't have been surprised. Word around town was that when the house deal blew up, her new guy, Mr. Fancy Real Estate, wanted nothing more to do with her. Couldn't say I blamed him. Travis filled me in later that night over beers. Apparently once the legal stuff hit, the guy freaked. Didn't want his name tied up in any of it. Left her high and dry. I leaned back in my chair, letting that sink in. And the house? Oh, that's the best part, Travis said, grinning. That investor you sold to? He's already moved to foreclose. She's got, like, 90 days to get out. I didn't even know how to respond to that. It felt surreal. Everything she'd built her new little empire on gone. Just like that. By the time the foreclosure hit, Jenna was out. Word was she packed up whatever she could fit in her car and moved back in with her parents. No house. No boyfriend. No job because, yeah, she was still suspended and from what I'd heard, charges might still be coming down the pipeline. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. My part in this story was over. Instead, I took my payout, the money from my share of the house, and finally did something for me. I bought a small place on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. No strings. No drama. Just a quiet little fixer-upper where I could start over on my own terms. Travis came by one weekend to help me paint the living room, and as we cracked open a couple beers, he asked, "You heard from her at all?" I shook my head. Nope. And I plan to keep it that way. We clinked our bottles, sitting on the floor surrounded by paint cans and drop cloths, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt good. Free. A couple weeks later, something showed up in my mailbox. A small envelope with no return address. I opened it, curious, and inside was a gift card, $50 to a steakhouse downtown, and a little note, "Thanks for the opportunity." She messed with the wrong guy twice. Cheers. I laughed out loud. No signature, but I knew exactly who sent it, the investor. The guy who'd turned Jenna's scheme into his win. Funny how fast things flip when someone thinks they're untouchable. I stuck the card in my wallet and moved on with my day, feeling like everything had finally come full circle. Jenna lost her house, her job, her boyfriend, everything she thought made her untouchable. And me? I walked away clean, cash in hand, with a fresh start and no strings attached. And that chapter of my life? It's closed for good.